Close it down, like that. What? Almost. Yeah, lie down, lie down. Lie down. Sorry. Just lie down. So, it's doing well. I just on it and it worked. Yeah. Okay. Um, Good evening, everyone. I'm sorry we are starting late than the proposed time um, due to some technical delays with our network. We've not been able to, we could not start as at the 5 o'clock, 5 p.m. that we slated to start. So I don't know if you can hear me. If you can hear me, please unmute so I know that my network is okay.
Yes, we can hear you, sir. I can hear you.
All right.
All
right. So I'm going to start trying to share my screen. Try to share. I'll try to share my screen. I don't know if it's going to work now. Okay. Yeah, can you see my screen?
Yes.
Okay. So we'll commence now. Thank you for joining us on this webinar. This is the first part of a three-leg webinar on profitable pig farming. Today's discussion will focus on key decisions in modern pig farming. The key decisions in modern pig farming. It's a lesson that would interest both people, new entrants into pig farming, as well as people who are looking to expand um, their business and also, make the right decisions. So that's why we themed the discussion, key decisions in modern pig farming. So our outline will start this way. I'll introduce the discussion. We'll talk about market analysis and production planning. We'll talk about genetics. We'll talk about infrastructure and equipment. We'll talk about training and the journey towards selling your first pig. So once again, thank you for joining us, and we'll start this discussion Now, let me see. I'm going to try to ensure that this meeting is recorded. I'm going to try to do that now. Uh, Let me try to sort out so that we can record this session. Okay, so uh, okay, so key decisions in modern pig farming. I've been thinking about this discussion for some time, and I actually want to start from why people actually go into piggery. Because myself, there were certain things that led us to invest in pig farming. So I'll start with this. The first assumption a lot of farmers make about pig farming. The first assumption, of course, is the issue of prolificacy. That is, pigs being able to farrow or have a large number of piglets at a time. So that is usually the first assumption. So people invest in pigs because they believe that pigs usually give birth to a large number of children at a time, and you can quickly grow your farm from one sow to about 20 something sows within the shortest possible time. So that's the exponential nature of the pig's fertility capacity is one of the reasons why people invest in pig farming. So yes, pigs are prolific. Pigs have a prolific reproductive capacity. But one challenge to this assumption is the fact that of genetics. So yes, pigs can give birth to a large number of piglets, but their capacity to do this is usually influenced by their genetics. So pigs with inferior genetics may not be able to give birth to a large number of piglets. So we need to really understand what it means to say that the pig is actually prolific. Because some pigs can give birth to 5, can give birth to 10, can give birth to 15. Of course, how do you understand what you have? If your animal gives birth to 8, would you still regard this prolificacy or this feature as something that is integral to you making money from the animal? The reality is, as far as pigs are concerned, the pig has to give birth to a minimum of 10 piglets at a time. So there are certain things you want to use to benchmark the performance of the animal in terms of how many piglets she's able to farrow at a time. So one useful benchmark is to say, look, 10 piglets is usually the minimum of what you expect from a particular gilt or sow. The reason for this is because a lot of things will happen between to these 10 piglets. You're going to be faced with the issue of pre-wean mortality and a lot of other management issues. So if you have a sow or gilt that is giving birth to 6 or 7, you may not be able to win the entire 6 or 7. You may have to win about probably 5 or 4, depending on how you manage it. So it is usually important for you to benchmark your pig's performance in terms of how many piglets she's able to give to you. So quality genetics is usually the defining force in terms of how many piglets the animal is able to produce at a time. So yes, prolificacy is one of the first assumption we make about pig farming. Um, the second assumption we make about pig farming is that of low maintenance. So this is a lot of people go into pig farming because they believe that unlike other livestock ventures, pigs do not require any formalized management skill sets and they can withstand harsh conditions. Well, this assumption is both true and false. It is false to a large extent, because pigs do require a degree of training, a degree of management in terms of really getting the best out of your animal. So if you have pigs, they go through a lot of life cycles. You have the farrowing process, you have the gestating process, you have the wean process. So you would do well not to have the idea that pigs are just low maintenance, and you don't actually need to invest so much in management. You actually need to manage the animal properly. So pigs are actually demanding. Um, the third assumption a lot of people have or bear in mind when they go into pig farming is that pigs can eat anything. They're easy to feed. They can eat anything and they will grow. People think that pigs thrive on scraps or any cheap formulation, and whatever you give to them, pigs will grow. Well, interestingly, pigs have a very, should I say, they have a taste board that can actually take in anything. They can actually eat anything. But whether they will grow is another matter or subject altogether. So yes, pigs are easy to feed, but why do you want to go into pig farming? You want to go into pig farming because you actually want this animal to convert what they are eating into meat within the shortest possible time. So you need to pay attention to feeding. And the issue of nutrition is usually account for more than 70% of whatever you do in pig farming. So nutrition is important, and it is important also to discard the idea that pigs can eat anything. Lastly, the fourth assumption a lot of farmers make is that pigs are disease tolerant. Of course, it's similar to what we pointed out about low maintenance of pigs. Pigs can fall sick. They are not disease tolerant. If they are not properly managed, they will get struck with any kind of infection. And this can be damaging to your investment. So pigs do require special care, and they will thrive in a quality house condition. So these are some of the mistakes people make, general assumptions that people make about pigs, that when they come into the business, they can either they make money from it or they lose. So the idea that they don't benchmark the reproductive capacity of the animal. I started pig farming, and I remember at that point in time, we used to see pigs giving birth to 5 or 6, and it looked like it was a good number. That was what we felt at that time. But along the line, when we started getting exposure to quality animals, we now saw animals doing 15 and 10 and 12 and 18, doing very good numbers. So it is important for you to benchmark what you expect the animal to produce. And somewhere along the line, I'll be able to show you how the number the animal is farming at the time will influence the cost of production. Because if she's doing maybe 5 or 6 piglets at a time, the cost that you have incurred in producing one piglet would actually go up than if she's been able to give you at least 10 to 12 piglets at a time, even at first farrow. So you must learn how to benchmark the performance of the animal. Also, we usually thought that pigs don't require any kind of specialized management. That's not true. For you to get the best out of the animal, then you must learn a lot. You must learn there are specialized strategies, strategies that are specific to each of the pig's life cycle. You must learn weaner management. You must learn piglet management. You must learn gestating sow management. You must learn lactating sow management. You must even learn how to adjust your feed for your growers and finishers and other things. So you actually need to learn all of these things. Also, the issue of nutrition. I also talk about nutrition. Like I said, this is the first part of a three-leg training. Today, we'll talk about key decisions in pig farming. And then next week, Monday, we'll talk about nutrition. So nutrition is very vital in whatever you do. Okay, so um, generally, of course, we've been training a lot of pig farmers for time. And usually when people come into pig farming, I think there's always this mistake people make. The emphasis people make, we can talk about the emphasis usually about genetics, usually about disease management and all that. I feel that the very first step before anybody puts their money into pig farming, the very first step has to be in market research. You have to discover the market for your pigs and plan your production accordingly. I can give you a number of real-time examples because, of course, I have consulted widely for a lot of farms. And, a lot of farmers have ambitious ideas about what they want to do. You see a lot of farmers go in and say, wow, we want to be able to produce 1,000 pigs in a year. We want to be able to produce 2,000 pigs in a year. We want to produce 100 pigs every month. We want to be able to flood the market and sell 100 pigs every month. But eventually, that kind of business usually have its own limitation, because you need to understand your market. You don't just go into pig farming and start producing. You start looking for a way to sell. I think that's the problem we find with a lot of big farm investments in Nigeria. You've not taken out time to look at who is actually going to buy the pigs. How do they want to buy the pigs? At what cost do they want to buy the pigs? This kind of market analysis, both formal and informal access to market information. You don't just invest your money in piggery. And I know that the idea people have is, of course, if you have pigs, you will always find the markets. But the best thing and the best proven strategy is for you to look at your market first of all before investing. So you want to decide as a farmer, what am I going to sell? I think this is very critical. Do I want to sell slaughter pigs? Do I want to sell breeding pigs? Pigs. Do I want to be a breeder? Do I want to go into processed pork? What exactly do you want to do? Because the disadvantage of investing without knowing the kind of operation you want to run is that at the market end, you become confused. Maybe you spend a whole lot of money in production, in nutrition. You've not adjusted your nutrition to the realities of the market. You spent a whole lot. And at the end of the day, when it's time to sell, you discover that you've actually sold and the market is still owing you because you've not made any money. We need to look at, especially I'm speaking to farmers in Nigeria now, we need to look at our unique situation. So what is the market for, what is the average price per kilo of slaughter pigs in Nigeria? It's somewhere between 1,000 and 1,100, and perhaps you have been consulting with another farmer who has a different market from what you are targeting. So, we have people whose market is just to sell breeder pigs. So they invest heavily in quality nutrition. The cost of producing a kilo in their farm is usually maybe 500 naira or 1,000 naira. They invest heavily in their production process. And you bring in what they do, and you want to sell processed pork, you bring in their strategy, and then you might end up failing. I'll tell you something for free. The farmers who want to sell breeder pigs, most of what they do is to sell winners. They sell growers for breeding purpose. What they spend on feeding is usually at least 50% higher than what the average person who sells slaughter pigs will spend feeding his animals, because they thrive on ensuring that their animals look very okay, their winners look robust, their growers look robust, and people are enticed to buy these animals. So you need to understand what you are selling, and this will guide you in the kind of nutrition plan you want to adopt for your farm. So you also need to talk about processed pork. Do you want to process your pork, and how do you want to process it? I think that the common idea is, okay, so pigs, there are so many ways to sell pigs. Even if you don't want to sell slaughter, you can go into processing pork and sell it to supermarkets. It is not as easy as it sounds. It isn't as easy as it seems. You might end up doing all of this and discover that you are not gaining on the market. So before investing or before expanding that farm, the advice would be go to the markets, understand your market situation, understand the market realities, determine firstly what kind of business operation you want to run. Okay. And then after the product, you look at the place. Who do you want to sell? Who do you want to sell your pigs to? Is there a local demand? Okay, do you have local pressure for pigs? Or are you going to have people coming outside of your state to buy the pigs that you have? So that is also a consideration. Because if there's local pressure for your pigs, that means you have ready markets locally, you have markets locally, you have people then that means you are actually going to have a good price for your pigs, But if you don't have a local pressure for your pigs, that means you're going to rely on off-takers coming to your state to buy. And of course, people coming to your state will definitely, the price difference between local buyers and out of the state buyers, definitely there will be a difference. So you actually want to look at that. All of this, of course, will determine the kind of strategy you will adopt, both management strategy and market management strategy and nutrition strategies. Also, you need to look at your price. It's the reality that a lot of pig farmers are not making profits. Is the reality, because most of them are not able to, do proper accounting on what they are doing. They're not able to aggregate all of their farm inputs, aggregate housing, aggregate labor to benchmark a price for profitability. So now we're talking about 1,000 naira, 1,200, 1,300. But are you sure that if you sell at 1,300 naira, you'll make profits? A few weeks ago, we ran a profitability analysis for a pig farm. We put up all of the accounts together, and we discovered that at their current rate of production, their cost of producing one finisher pig at 70 kilo was about 1,800 naira. So they've spent 1,800 naira to produce that animal, and they are selling at 1,200 naira. So a lot of farms are not doing their accounting properly, and so they follow the general price, and that's where the mistake is. So you need to be able to do proper accounting to arrive at a benchmark price, even if you don't want to talk about the profits. Okay, benchmark price that if you sell, you'll be able to recover the money you put inside. That's an issue. So another thing again is promotion. How do you want to sell your pigs? You want to sell to the local market? One of the strategies we adopted at some point in time was get people who would take the animals to the local market and slaughter the animals at the local market for us. Also, if you are a breeder farm, maybe you want to establish some kind of presence on social media, you also want to join local farming groups in your community. But the bottom line of all of these things is, before investing in piggery, let's leave the genetics part of it. Let's leave the house part of it. Before investing in piggery, it is important for us to do our market survey, do our market analysis, look at the kind of what are we selling, what is the best product, the best pig product to sell. Do we go into the sale of do we go into the sale of live pigs, slaughter pigs? Do we process our pork? What is the best way to approach the market? That is usually the best thing that any farmer should do before investing or throwing the money into piggery. You also need to determine where you want to sell the pigs. Okay, who is going to buy those pigs? At what price? Okay, so that is the best thing. The price of your product must balance the value or benefit to the customer with the profit or return to the seller and be competitive with the competition. So the reality for us, majorly in the pig market, is a lot of farmers want to sell pigs at maybe 1,800 naira for live weight of pigs. But the question is, who will buy live weight for 1,800 naira? So if you spent, after doing your calculation, you discover that you probably spent about 1,900 naira to produce 1 kilo of pig. And then because of that, you feel that a buyer must come and buy at 1,900 naira. It is almost impossible. You must find another strategy to sell, or you undersell at a bad price. So that is something that has to be considered with pig farming. So whatever you are doing, you must pay attention to the market. The pig is not going to sell itself. You must pay attention to the market. And I don't know if you are hearing me. If you're hearing me, kindly unmute yourself.
I can hear you.
Yes, please.
Okay, better. All right, so we'll go ahead now. All right, so with market analysis, you should be able to plan your production. After market analysis, you should be able to plan your production. I understand my network is unstable, but so we are facing in Nigeria. Okay, so with market analysis, the market analysis will enable you plan your production. So you are thinking, okay, I've done my market analysis and I've gotten, this is what the market can take. So the reason for saying this is that we need to help farmers who probably make the mistake of having ambitious plans when they want to go into pig farming. I interact with them a lot. They want to produce 500, 1,000, 2,000, 3,000, 10,000. But where's the market for it? And at the end of the day, this kind of projects usually suffer challenges down the road. So let the market determine the kind of production you want to do. So just like we said here on the screen, let your market determine your head size. So you look at it. I want to produce 50 pigs every month because I have a market for 50 pigs every month. I have a market for 20 pigs every month. It is better you define this, and then as the market appreciates, you can now expand what you are doing. As the market appreciates, you can now expand your operation. You can now decide, okay, I want to produce more. I want to produce 1,000. But first of all, you must keep an eye on the market before looking at your production. And I have taught batch farrowing on several occasions. And the reality is most of the things we learn from the farms in Europe, it usually becomes a challenge for us to implement it in Nigeria. So for a lot of factors, genetics is a factor. We don't have the prime genetics that they have. We don't have the kind of nutrition that they have. So what I would tell farmers is, so let's ignore some of the intricacies of batch farrowing for now, and let us look at having a monthly production quota. So it doesn't have to be, let's not talk about 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks, 5 weeks. Just look at it and say, okay, I have 30 sows I want to group them because, of course, the gestating period is usually about 115 days, 112, 13 or 14 days. That should be about 4 months. So what you typically want to do is to say, look, if I have 30 sows, I want to divide it and produce 6 sows, cross 6 sows every month. That way, you are able to meet your quota for the market. Because if those 6 sows are farrow and you grow them to finish, you're talking around 60 piglets on average. So you can easily push out 60 piglets. You know, there was a time I specifically said one of the ways of approaching the market is to produce animals in bulk. There is no advantage to be gotten by selling one pig every day, or 2 pig, or 3 pig, or even 5 pigs, or 10. There's no way you can make it in the market if you are selling in fractions. What you want to do is to ensure that you finish off a certain group of pigs, uniform weights, maybe 70, 60 kilo. This is what you can finish, and you send it to the market at once and get your money at once. Even if you can't send 60, you can do it 2, you can send 30 at a time. But if you can aggregate your production, it would be more profitable for you. So these are some of the things that you need to consider with market. So you need to look at your market, and your market must definitely influence your production, the number of pigs to be produced. So if you are going into pig farming, or you want to invest in pig farming, please, or you want to expand your pig farm, please do not take for granted the market research and analysis you have to do. Again, do not pump in money without understanding the market. It's a recipe for failure. Pigs are not going to sell themselves. Even if you say people eat pigs every day, you know, but at what price? A few days ago, somebody was pricing someone at Ibadan 800 naira per kilo. So that is if you don't understand the market. So there will always be buyers for pigs, but the question is at what price? So if you've been able to study your market and do your analysis and understand where it is going, to understand the sector, both locally and across the country, then the next thing you want to do is understand the issue of genetics. So genetics is crucial, and I think it's very crucial, but farmers in Nigeria, we must understand our local situation. And that is why whenever I enter the genetics argument, we understand the binding principle of farming quality pigs. The agreement, we are all in agreement that you must only select healthy, high quality breeding stock, which is the agreement. And then we now go to the issue of names. You have things like large white, landrace, and Duroc. But genetics in Nigeria is a very sensitive issue, because how are you sure where are you going to have pigs of proven genetics? Where are you going to get these pigs of proven genetics? Very few farmers have it. Mostly what we see on the internet, we see people selling large white and landrace. The names are a problem, you know. So if you don't want to suffer heartache with some of these names that people are brandishing around, you know, what you need to focus on is performance. Because the end of genetics is not, we're not going to kill a large, when we eat pigs, we're not talking about large, this is a large white pig I'm eating, or this is a landrace pig I'm eating, or the farmer. What you are interested in within the argument of genetics is performance of the animal. And that is the reality. So what are those benchmark performance you actually want to look at? You know, because right now you've just finished from the market. The market is telling you that if you produce 60 pigs in a month, you have a market for it. If you produce 100 pigs, we can actually take it. So you come back and say, look, how can I produce these pigs within the cheapest possible way? How can I produce these pigs? What kind of pigs should I produce? So you need to now look for a reliable farm and get information on their performance. So if you can find a farm that has verifiable large rights, land race, and the Duroc, that is very good. But I will say this now. If you have decided that what you want to do is to go into breeding, then you must understand that your reputation as a farmer is important. So whatever you start your farm with, it has to be the real thing. If you want to be a breeding farm, you can't just go to the roadside and buy any large white or large pig that is called a large white. You actually want to bank on getting the right animal to breed for other farmers. But if you want to go into slaughter, then you start looking for things like F1s, and all that. But that is the standard. The standard of the industry says take a large white, which is a grandparent stock, take a land race, which is a grandparent stock, mate them together, they'll give you an F1. Take the F1, mate it together with a Duroc, you have an F2, and that's your slaughter pig. That is the industry standard. But for your local market, you may find it challenging to get this kind of animals, if you are not importing or if you can't access a farmer who has recently imported. In that kind of situation, what do you do? Does it mean that you will not do pig farming? No, it doesn't mean you won't do it. What it means is that you must now go back and study the performance of the animals or where you want to get this animal from. What is the performance of the animals? So that is it. So you look at the farrow size. Are these animals prolific enough? Going back to our earlier discussion on prolificacy. Are they prolific enough? Can they produce more than or equal to 10 piglets at a time? What is the FCR? Okay, how well does the farmer feed the pigs? What is the farmer feeding the pigs, and what is the result in terms of hitting market rates? Those are some of the questions you must ask. So you must learn to ask the right question. Okay, you must learn to ask the right question. One of the most important questions you ask, of course, is what is the win time? What is the average win time? How long does this pig stay with the farmer before the farmer wins them? So you have a lot of people who, in this day and age, are still winning their pigs at 8 months, 8 weeks, or 9 weeks, or even 7 weeks. So industry standard, which is important for productivity, is within 28 to 35 days, within 4 to 5 weeks, you should be able to win off the sow with good management. So for genetics, I would always advise choose the right genetics. In choosing the right genetics, ask the right question, look at the farmer's record, and that is important. So the key thing is focus on performance. Focus on performance. A lot of farmers have lost a lot of money in the name of buying Duroc, in the name of buying large whites, because they've allowed these breed names to confound them, that they've not been able to ask the right question. So you now see people saying they have all fancy names, TN70, TN80, and all that. The real thing is performance. So if you ask the right question, you get the right answers. Also, whatever breed, if you can get access to the farmer that has the right breed, reliable, whatever thing you are doing, it must align with your business operation. So if you are a breeder, of course, what you should be looking for is to get grandparent stock. If you are a breeder, what you should be looking at getting is a grandparent stock, which is the large white or the land race. Yeah? That's what you should be looking at starting your farm with. If you are into the slaughter business, what you'll be looking at is to get a Duroc and an F1 that will produce excellent slaughter pigs. But I must always say this, where we are in Nigeria is not, we are not really in a good position in terms of our pig farming practice in the world. We don't have a reliable multiplication farm in the country. So don't let anybody deceive you. Tell you, oh, we have TN70, we have this and that. TN70 is an F1 female, which only a multiplication farm that can produce it, or from the source. So you have to be very careful. So the most important thing I always advise people is focus on performance and ensure that that is what guides you in the kind of genetics you are selecting. All right, so okay, so one important issue again is building. So you've done your business plan, you've done your market analysis. Market analysis can either be formal or informal. You don't have to employ an expert. An informal market analysis is to visit other farms, visit the market. Where is these pigs that these people are producing? Who are they selling it to? And at what price? What are they putting into this production? And what are they getting at the end of the day? So you can do your own informal market analysis. After that, you now also compare and decide on how you are going to approach stocking of your pigs. After that, you now look at infrastructure. And I really want to touch on infrastructure because I see that a lot of farmers make mistake in terms of their building. So typically the pigs have their own life cycle. You have pigs from nursery, winners, you have growers, you have finishers, you have gestating sows, you have lactating sows, and all of this. So they have different categories of pigs. It would serve you well if you are able to structure your farm in such a way that most of these animals at a specific life cycle go into a particular hall or building, if you can. It is always important. So, specialized buildings such as gestating halls, uh, farrow pens, grower halls, and finisher halls are usually recommended. So if you are building, you want to keep a particular space and say this is my nursery, this is the farrow hall. It usually helps also with your biosecurity plans. Yeah, biosecurity plans, it helps a lot because you make sure that you can't just go to this particular hall or go to this particular hall without a particular purpose. So you have different kind of biosecurity plan you've implemented for each hall. And also it helps you in terms of your flow. So just like I said, when you want to build, you need to have a production plan. And this production plan, you might decide to say, okay, I'm going to do 50 animals a month. So what do you typically need? You definitely need a breeding hall where you're going to breed these animals on a monthly basis. You need a winner hall, you need a grower hall, and you need a finisher hall. When you want to expand, you expand these buildings, you expand your capacity expands the building. So another thing again, of course, very important is the biosecurity of each building. If you are operating a farm where one hall does everything, a multi-purpose hall, you may stand the risk of disease transfer from pen to pen, because it's not easy to advise attendants that when you are washing, usually start from the smaller animals first to the bigger animals. Most of them may not, follow or remember to follow this thing. So what you want to do is if you have a different hall that takes care of your winners, you can now say, okay, you station one attendant taking care of this thing. That particular hall that takes care of your breeders, you can station somebody who can ensure that you have a reduced mortality rate in that particular hall. So that's one important thing you need to talk about when we talk about infrastructure and equipment. And a lot of farmers, so a lot of farmers invest a lot of money in equipment, farrow crate, and all of that. These are good investments, but there are also cheaper options to doing this. The cheaper options to doing this to ensure that you mitigate the mortality for your animals. I'm going to stop sharing this here and I'm going to share something else. I'm going to try to show something else. Okay. Okay, let's come on up now. Okay, so it is this is a costing template um farmers should have. You know, it helps you understand what the cost of producing one animal is in the farm. You know, so you can do this. You can do this by the population of the farm. You can do this by the population of the farm. So I was talking about sow prolificacy initially, and I said it is important for you to have a sow that produces large number of piglets, because if she doesn't, you are going to be faced with some issues. Okay. If she doesn't, you're going to be faced with some real problems. It's going to kick up your cost of production. So typically, you have a gestating period of about 113 days on average. And if she consumes around, let's say she consumes around, you have a gestating feed of about 250 naira per kilo, and she takes 2.5 kilo, that is around 625 naira. 625 naira goes to feeding your gestating sow every day. Times 112 days. That's around, you spend 70,000 naira feeding that gestating sow. And after spending 70,000 naira on feeding, this is excluding medication and excluding the cost on housing, she produces 5 piglets for you. That means each piglet costs 14,000, right? That's the cost of producing one piglet. Cost about 14,000. You know, this cost, you feel it by the time you get to the finisher phase and you see how, you know, it has affected whatever you are doing. So, but if she's a good sow and she gives you around 12 piglets, you know, it brings your cost of production down to somewhere around 5,833 naira. So that means, you know, by the time you get to the finisher phase, you discover that at least you're making profits. You know, so the number of piglets the sow is going to farrow will determine your profitability if you are into selling or slaughter pigs. It will determine your profitability. So this analysis, of course, is for those people who are into grow to those finished stages of production. So in the win phase, right, you're going to spend some money on starter feed, and let's say you spend an average of 350 naira on a kg of starter feed, and you give them an average of 0.8 grams throughout their stay as winners. So you discover that that's about 280 naira every day, you know. And so if you win the animal at 12 kilo, the animal transitions to a grower at 25 kilo. That is from my own personal, what I do personally. I transit them to growers at 25 kilo to avoid any hitch. And if it takes you 8 weeks to achieve 25 kilo from 12 kilo, 8 weeks is a minimum of 7 times 8, that's about 56 days. So you spend around 15,680 naira to feed these animals. I won't go through this calculation. I can make this Excel sheet available for everyone. But the idea behind this analysis is so that farmers can see the cost of production, the aggregate of everything you are spending on your pig. You're going to spend money in producing the piglets. No matter if you are doing in-house production, that is, you are breeding your own piglets, the piglet is not for free. You are spending money on gestating. You must be able to account for your expenses during the gestating period before the piglet was born. You are spending money at the wean phase. You're going to spend money at the grower phase with medications. You're going to spend money at the finisher phase with medications. You're going to spend money on salaries that you will spread across the animals to know how much you are spending per pig. You know, you will spend money on maintenance in the farm. You will spend money also on admin expenses, you know, logistics, fuel, and any other miscellaneous in the farm. You're going to spend money on these issues. And then you have a total. So let's say this farmer spent a total cost of 66,300 naira producing 80 kg of pig. And you know, somebody comes from Warri and they buy the pig at 1,050 naira per kilo. The offtake value is 84,000. Profit margin is 17,700 naira. That is what he has made per pig. So if he decides to process the pork and he sells live weight at 1,250, the meat shop value is about 100,000. Profit margin is about 33,700. You know, so you need to aggregate all your expenses, everything you have spent producing a pig. You need to be able to factor it in the cost of production. And then after doing that, you now determine the best markets. So if you have maybe a quality animal, you are into selling of breeders and you want to sell at growers, you know, you probably have spent around 50,000, you know, around 50,000 or thereabouts, taking the animal up to grower phase of around 50 to 60 kg. And you want to sell the animal for breeding purpose, and you are able to sell it at 150,000 naira. That means you probably made times 3 of what you have spent, you know. But if you want to take the animal up to slaughter phase, you know, you get it. So at this point in time, the farmer is making 17,700. So if the farmer sells less than 1,050 naira, farmer sells maybe for 900 or 950, the farmer knows that he's going at a loss. So if the farmer is also producing finisher feed, spending a whole lot of money on kind of feed, you know, it will still affect the total outcome of what you're saying. So the most important thing for us farmers, ab initio from the beginning, is for us to put our heads together and do the proper calculations. I will still spend a lot of time on day 3 of this webinar. That's 2 weeks, 2 Mondays from now, to go into this kind of analysis. You know, you need to be able to plan your feeding system. You know, one thing is important with feeding. You feed animals to grow. It has to be sustainable. It has to help the animals grow, but you don't have to drain all your profits into feeding the pigs. If you feed your pigs for 1,600 naira and the animals look robust and all that, and somebody is coming to buy the animal at 1,300 naira, you've only enriched the slaughter, you've only enriched the slaughter person's pockets. So that is something you need to understand. So you need to find the best alternative, right? The best alternative to feed your pigs that will get you to market weight within the shortest possible time. And that is what I always try to tell farmers. We have to localize our situation. Here in Nigeria, we are facing, you know, low pig prices. You know, so we cannot import a feed formulation that will require for us to spend more than the value of pigs in the market. You know, so even if some associations have put the price of pigs at maybe 1,500 naira, it may not be realistic across the country. So that is something that we need to look at. Okay, so I'm going to take a break. I'm really tired. I want to take questions. If we have questions, I believe now is the time for us to talk about the questions. If you have any question at all, based on what we have discussed, you can draw my attention to it before we end it for today. You can unmute yourself if you have any question or comment you want to contribute. Do we have any contribution? Okay. All right. Thank you, Mr. Sharif. So, okay. Yeah. So, in the absence of any question, I'll drop this now. So next week, Monday, we'll be talking about nutrition, and that is going to be a very complete discussion. Nutrition management from zero to A to Z. We'll spend a lot of time talking about pig nutrition because I think that's the cornerstone of the business. But just like I said, the real focus for us, the real challenge for us is to do proper analysis before going into pig farming. I've seen a lot of people invest a lot of money, good money, into pig farming, and they still lost. You must spend a lot of time, doing your analysis, looking at your market and how you want to approach your market. In Nigeria, we have states where demand for pigs are high, and then we have states where the demand for pigs are low. You have states where you have, I can name them. In Delta states, you have good demand for pigs. In Cross River State, you have good demand for pigs. In River State, you have good demand for pigs. And even within these states, there are states that are able to pay well, and there are states that don't pay well. And even in the year, funny enough, even in the year, there are certain months of the year where you have gluts, where there's so many pigs in the market, and then the prices of pigs go down. So you need to spend a lot of time to do this calculation because honestly, the number of farmers who are actually making profit from pig farming is low because we have just aligned ourselves with the ridiculous assumption that pigs, there's a lot of money in pig farming. Pig farming involves time to do your calculation and make profits. So I think at this point in time, we'll call it for tonight. But if you have any question, I'm open to taking questions now. You can always type your question in the comment section, and then we'll get to it. Okay. In the absence of any question, yeah. So you can always, if something comes to your mind, you can always send me a message. You can always send me a message, and then we'll try to respond. We'll try to respond to your message. Yeah, you can always send me a message. We'll try to respond to your message. My phone number on WhatsApp, if you don't already have it. Okay. Okay, so good night, everyone. Till next week, Monday. Thank you for joining.